So I'm Debbie, if you haven't met me, and a couple of you haven't, but anyway, so I'm going to be teaching you Leviticus and Hebrews. Now, the one we know better as in general is Hebrews. The one we don't know better in general is Leviticus. So most of my focus is going to be on Leviticus, because that's what we need to, that's the one we don't know. And as I was reading through Hebrews, I was thinking, wow, if I understood Leviticus better, I would understand this part of the story of Hebrews better. And that happened over and over and over again. And so that's what gave me the idea of studying Leviticus to understand Hebrews. So I just thought I would show you a little bit of how the two work out. If you were to lay Leviticus and Hebrews side by side, it looks like this. And then I will erase this because you're going to go. Okay, so we're in Hebrews. Chapter 1 goes over here. But chapter 2 doesn't have anything. Chapter 3 is going to go to all of them. Okay, chapter 4 is going to go up to here and down to here and down to here. Chapter 5, you get the point. So, if we knew this really well, and we were going through Hebrews really, systematically, I would go, hey, remember that? You go, oh yeah. I would go, hey, remember that? Oh yeah. But we don't remember any of those. So, now what if we do it backwards? And I say, okay, we're here. This one's the easy one. We're here, and it's going to go, this one down here is going to go down to here. And we are going to be we're not going to be able to follow it a whole lot. You get what I'm trying to say? So what I'm going to do is we're going to follow this outline. And I will just pull these out and try to pull them into context. But if you're saying, okay, I still don't have the flow of Hebrews, that's not the objective of this class. The objective is to understand the background for Hebrews. And later when you go through and you read Hebrews, you'll go, oh, I get that. And you won't be orienting to the order of Leviticus, you'll just be orienting to the content. That all makes sense? Okay, that I thought I'd better clear up right away, because if you thought we were going to be able to pull it off like this, I can't do that. I even read somebody who tried that, and I'm going, I'm not following, because what I see as they're trying to make straight across wasn't working for me. So anyway, that's out of here. And that takes care of that. The next thing I wanted to tell you in Hebrews is that it's full, in Leviticus. If I do those backwards, my brain is back and forth constantly. In Leviticus, it's full of what we call types. Okay, so this is a type. This is not good. In English, in our culture, we'll go, oh, what type of cookie do you like? And you'll go, and you'll think, this kind of cookie and this kind of cookie, and you'll go, oh, I like that kind of cookie. Or what type of car do you like? Or what type of fabric do you like, your clothes? That's not what this word means at all. This word, it comes from typology. And typology, all right, we better come up with that.
Oh, there you go.
Is when you take, it comes from the Greek word parabole. And what it means is you take an object or a story and you make a direct connection to another story. Okay, so let me give you an example, okay? At Passover, they killed the lamb, they put the blood over the door, and later on we learn that Jesus Christ is the Lamb of God that takes away the sins of the world. Right? That is a direct type. So when I say the lamb, We know we are talking, back then they might not have known what it meant yet, but we know they're talking about the Lamb of God. All right, that's a direct typology. There's indirect typologies that it doesn't, like here's another direct one. It actually uses the word type in the New Testament to tell us that that's exactly what this was. When Abraham sacrifices Isaac on the mountain, that is an exact typology of God giving his beloved son. Okay? This one got a substitute ram. This one was the substitute. Okay? So that's an exact typology. When you see that, you know that one is that one. That's what it pictures. There's indirect typologies that are so obvious that I want to call them typologies. And that's like Noah's Ark. All right? If you go in the door, you are saved. Okay, you get that? There's Jesus. He claims to be the door. If you go in the door, you are saved. You see the typology? Okay, it doesn't anywhere in the Bible say, use the word, that is a type of that. But it's so obvious. You know? So if you're looking at, then there's a lot of indirect typologies. Like here's one. It directly tells us in the Bible, this would be a direct typology, that when Moses strikes the rock and water comes out, that rock is Jesus Christ. Because it says so in 1 Corinthians chapter 10. It says the rock that followed him was Jesus Christ. So that's a direct typology. So here's an indirect typology. If when Moses strikes the rock once, causing it distress and pain, quote, in picture, and out comes living water. And that's a good picture of Jesus Christ on the cross. And then later in the story, when he strikes the rock twice, and he's supposed to speak to the rock, and now he strikes the rock twice, and then Moses gets tremendously severely disciplined for that. I see that as an indirect typology of crucifying Jesus Christ again. Okay? It does not actually say that, but I see that picture. So there's direct typologies, there's indirect typology, and then there's a lot of analogies. And then there's applications. Like, okay, so this, how do we apply this to our lives? That's not typology, that's application. Do you guys see all those differences? They're all over Leviticus. So in my notes, and I'm not always consistent as I go through and try to edit them before I print them, if it's a real direct typology, I try to use an equal sign. Okay? In math, when I was in high school, if it was a general match, it was this. Okay, so I have one of those somewhere in one of my 50 or 60 fonts, but I did not try to find it. But I do have one that just looks like this. Okay? So pretend it's 2 lines. It's only 1 line. That's me saying, as far as I can tell, this means this. All right? Got that? I just wanted to point that out as you're looking at them. So I don't want to give the impression that something is exactly this when it's not. And there's lots of different people's viewpoints on it all. All right, the other thing in Leviticus before we get going on it is full of theology. And just because I'm a freak on etymology, I want to tell you what the words mean and how we got them. This part of the word, theo, comes from the Greek word theos. And this part comes from the Greek word ology, which means to study. Theos means God. Ology means study. Look, I should put ology here. This means to study. So theology is the study of God. Okay, so we're going to do a lot of things like that. And as I show you different words, I will break them down if I can figure it out, and show it to you. And help you understand, because for me, when I started understanding what the words meant, then I get that. I can do that. All right? So that's all of that. Okay, so now we're down to the main theme. I'm trying to get us oriented. The main theme of Leviticus is be holy. As I am holy. And that's God talking. Now that's a huge, huge undertaking. And we're going to kind of go through the background of these people and see why this is so difficult. Because of their background and upbringing, because of their worldview, because of their culture that they were raised in. This is way more, they're gonna, I'm jumping all over the place, but in my brain, they're gonna go, oh yeah, we can do that, we can do that, we can do that. And oh no, they can't. So that's pretty much, that's the story right there. They think they can, and no, they can't. So let's get into, let me see what else I forgot to do here. It's kind of like the people are going to be like, in Genesis, when Adam and Eve fell, and they have to hide, there is a reason they have to hide. They know what a holy God looks like. And they are completely aware of how much they are not. And they have to hide. That's going to happen all over the place. We've got a holy God. We've got a very, very unholy people. And this holy God is going to live in the middle of their community. So how do they even go out the door of their tent? How do they walk around? How do they not die by stepping outside? That's what Leviticus is about. So let me get going into this and some interesting things. The book before Leviticus is Exodus. The book after Leviticus is Numbers. Exodus ends with God filling the temple and Moses not being allowed to go inside. Okay? Numbers opens with Moses inside talking to God. How does he do that? How does he get from outside to inside without dying? And I'm trying to make it very dramatic because in reality it's very dramatic. And by the time Leviticus starts and we get all this information, within 2 weeks people are going to die because they did it wrong. Okay? So it's very critical that you enter this correctly. Let's see what else I had on here. I have all these important things. God wants to be in the center of his people. This is how the camp looks. Here's this. There are tents on all 4 sides, and this is their community right here, and he lives in the middle. And this is his glory. That's how the camp looks. And it's a way different culture. So let's go back and let's look at the Israelites in Egypt. They have been in slavery for 400 years. Okay, so you think about that. By the way, while they're in slavery, they have no Bible. There is no Bible. There's nothing written down. They have one thing that might be considered a Bible, and that is a sarcophagus. Okay, they have a sarcophagus. It's Joseph's sarcophagus. And because he was a famous, well-known, high-ranking guy, he should have been put in a pyramid. But he tells them not to. This is the end of Genesis. Do not put me in the pyramid. Leave me out, because when the people get to go back home to their land, you're taking me with you. All right? That's their only promise. Okay. Now think about it. The average family has a kid every 25 years maybe, right? You get, and they get, okay. So it's been 400 years. That's 16 sets of grandparents. My great 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 grandparent told us not to bury Joseph. Okay, there he is. That, what if that was your only promise from God? Oh, but he also have the stories. Do you remember any of your great-great-grandfather's stories? I actually remember my grandfather's stories. I remember stories about my great-grandfather. I remember my great-grandmother's stories, but they're like, if you told me that, okay, Debbie, you're going to stay really faithful because your great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather said that God said this. And God hasn't spoken since. And all we've done is pass it on. Okay, do you see how difficult this is? Okay, not only that, is they are not free. They are in slavery, and they are very strong and healthy. God is multiplying them greatly, but they are in slavery, and they've been in slavery for all these years, which means they are accumulating the culture around them. You can't live in a society very long without accumulating that culture, especially if you are fifth or sixth generation born in the United States, and your family came from Ukraine. Okay, how much of you would be still Ukraine and not United States? Right? You'd be United States by now. You'd be speaking this language. Would you be speaking that language? Probably. Probably not, unless you were visiting with your great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather. Okay? And their processes of functioning, their belief systems, or whatever was of value, or whatever, how they looked at life, has faded. And you are now functioning in this new culture. That's the state of the Israelites in Egypt. So I got to tell you about Egyptian culture so that you can see their mindset, you can see their worldview, you can see their frame of reference. Egyptian culture is swarmed with gods. There are so many gods that they can't even keep track of all their own gods. They have national gods, they have county gods, they have city gods, they have family gods, they have gods for pharaohs, they have gods for slaves, they have gods everywhere. Their gods run everything. Everything in their lifestyle is appeasing those gods to help them. If they need water, they appease the water god. If they need grain, and I used to know all these, but I'm not remembering the names of all the different gods, and I didn't take time to review all that. But they would deal with, they need grain, they need food. So they would go to the god that grows, or they would go to the god that heals, or they have a Nile god. They have a different god for every river. They have gods everywhere. It's all about the gods. You appease the gods. And so that is ingrained, and you worship those gods. And their systems of worship are not what our systems of worship are like. They're very, very different. They're very erotic, and they are very much like that, as we will find out a little bit later. So they are very much into the gods. They also are, I already did that. I'll check, because I will go all over the place. You guys know me. Okay? So their idolatry is ingrained in their lives, in their viewpoint. So, conditions of slavery get worse over the years. It starts off from Joseph when he brings the people. By the way, this up here is the land of Israel, or is called at this time the land of Canaan. The Israelites aren't there yet. This is the Mediterranean Sea, in case you need that orientation. This is the Dead Sea. This is the Jordan River. It goes up there is the Sea of Galilee. Over here, this is, here's this is Egypt, okay? This right here is the most fertile land in Egypt, and it's called Goshen. And that's where Joseph got to move his family, to the fertile land. So we're talking 400 years prior to this part of the story. Since that, they have become slaves, and their slavery has increased in difficulty over the generations, okay? By the time we get down to the time of the Exodus, we are probably at what I think is the 18th dynasty. I think that is the Amenhoteps and the Tutmoses. I don't think that the Exodus came at the Ramses time. There's lots of reasons. I don't even need to go into all that because that's not this lesson, but the main one is if that you make Ramses the Pharaoh of the Exodus, you don't have time for the New Testament, the Old Testament to happen to get to David. It happens, there's not enough time to put it in there. Okay, so that's one reason right there. And so anyway, I think it's him, and I think it was Amenhotep the first who decided that the Israelites are getting too strong. So he orders the midwives, which would have been the doctors and nurses at that time, to abort the babies. Massively. All right, if they fail to do this, they're dying. It's not like the United States of America where we have at least a freedom to have our own decisions. We at least have the ability to go to court about it. We at least have some things, some recourse. It was not like that. They either obey or they die. Okay? So they chose not to obey. So there are a few people in these long lines of generations who are staying faithful to God. Okay? One of them is Moses' parents. That's one group right there, because they chose to not hide him. This is a very rare thing. I think the vast majority of the people have given in to the idolatry. Okay, so they hide him. He gets found. I think that's Princess Hatshepsut. If you go to Egypt today, you'll see the palace of Hatshepsut. And I think that's who that was. Turns out that her dad is Thutmose II, and he and his wife have one kid, and that is a girl. I'm thinking of her name. Hatshepsut. Anyway, whoever marries I got that mixed up. Hatshepsut and her husband is Thutmose II, and their kid is one girl. He has an illegitimate kid, and she adopts Moses. So here's how it turns out. Whoever marries the daughter gets to be the next Pharaoh. The only reason I'm saying all this is because when Moses turns down the throne of Egypt, he's really turning down the throne. He's turning down being Pharaoh to go lead these particular slaves. This is a big thing. It's a big thing. So he sees his countrymen. He knows who he is. He probably knows who he is from a young boy on because he's been circumcised. How would he even have his identity? He probably knows that from that. Okay? I don't know how much interaction he got to have with his big sister, who's Miriam, or his big brother, who's Aaron. I do know that by the time he meets Aaron again, it's been like 40 years. So he sees his countrymen being beaten. He goes in to rescue them from the slave master, and he ends up killing the slave master. This kinds of problem, because the other guy who's fighting for the throne wants to get rid of Moses. So Moses has to flee. So Moses flees Egypt, and he goes to this area, right over here, mostly on this side. All right, he goes over here to this area, and he becomes a shepherd and stays there for 40 years. You got to realize that the beginning of the story of Exodus, the beginning of the Exodus, Moses is already an 80-year-old man. I'm going, whoa. I'm really glad I didn't really like start my plan at 80. You know? Starting the plan at 80. So he's 80 years old. He goes up on to what is probably the same place as he talked to God for receiving the 10 Commandments. And on there he sees the burning bush. And God introduces himself. And it's not the first time God has used the word Yahweh as his name, but it is the identifying name. So he's supposed to tell the Israelites when they ask, all right, what God sent you? Was it ISIS? Was it what God sent you? And he's going to say, Yahweh sent me. That is a really neat name. Yahweh is a name that can't be reproduced. It's, if you took the word in English, the verb to be, I am, you are, he is, da, 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 and turned that into a proper name, what would you say that name was? Is? This would be cousin it, you know? I don't know. You take that and you turn it into a proper name and you have I am, and that's what Yahweh means. Because it comes from their verb haya, which means to be, to is. I just think that, personally, that just excites me. I like that. I get very excited over stuff like that. And so you guys know the story, and God has to actually kind of talk Moses into it, and he goes back, and on the way back, he sees Aaron, and they meet, and they go into Pharaoh, and he goes, Yahweh says, let my people go. Okay, now the Pharaoh, by now, is not the one that was his stepbrother. It's his stepbrother's son. Turns out that his stepbrother became the greatest pharaoh in all of Egyptian history. Yeah. His son is living up to those standards. You get that? Okay, so he goes, and his son goes, so what God is that? You know, I mean, he's there. See their brain? So that's when he throws the staff down and da-da-da-da-da, and you guys know all about that. And that means nothing to him. So the plagues start. And one by one, those plagues take out those gods. The main 10 gods. The first one is the Nile god. One of the main gods is the Nile god. And one by one, and the one of the 10th, 9th plague is the darkness. Okay, their sun god is the top god of all gods. And he takes out the sun god with the darkness. An interesting thing is the personal god for the Pharaoh is the cobra. And when he throws the snake down and they bring in the cobras, his cobra eats that cobra. He just destroyed the Pharaoh's personal god. There's so much to the story, and I am going to be in big trouble today. Because I'm not even how to get it.
So we already added another week.
But I want to set the mindset of the people who are going to be hearing Leviticus. And I want you to understand where they're coming from. So anyway, they go through the plagues, right? And we're now at Passover, and the Egyptian people have suffered massively from these plagues. They've wiped out their crops, they've wiped out their animals, they've wiped out their water, they've wiped out their sun, they've wiped out everything. Their gods are destroyed. And yet they are not believing. There are a few who do, but most of them stay strong with their idolatry. All right, so last plague. God is going to wipe out the firstborn. This is one reason I'm really quite sure. I personally think that this is the set of pharaohs, because in the long history of the pharaohs, how each one has the son, this particular pharaoh, who happens to be Amenhotep II, his second-born son becomes pharaoh after him, not his firstborn son. His firstborn son dies in the Passover. So that helps me identify where I'm at and what's going on. And you really have to look to find that information, because Egypt is very much a revisionist history writing country.
Interesting.
Okay? So they They carve their things on the wall, and then the new dynasty comes in. They don't like the other dynasty. They want to be the great dynasty. They scrape the cement. They scrape the rocks down and recarve the history. So you go, well, there's no evidence of that. You go, you really think that the son that becomes Pharaoh after his father dies in the Red Sea is going to put that history on their walls? Or do you really think he's going to tear that down? So you go, okay, there isn't, and that's the big archaeological argument against this. Well, that really makes sense to me. But they killed a lamb. There's so much to this story. That lamb is kept with the family for 4 days so it becomes the beloved pet, the beloved lamb. They kill the beloved. They put the blood over the door. They walk through the door. I'm going, do you guys see typology all over the place? That's what you should be seeing, and that's not even our lesson today. So they go through the door. They eat the lamb. They have to eat the lamb all that night. So if you have a small family, you join families because you got to eat the whole lamb. They have to have unleavened bread because there's no time for it to rise. By 6 a.m., they're going to be out the door and on the Exodus. That happens that fast, okay? The angel of the Lord comes over. If the blood is on the door, he passes over. It's so literal. That's called Passover. That's where the whole festival of Passover came from. God passed over their door. Did he pass over Pharaoh's door? No. He didn't put the blood on the door. By the time we get to this point, the Egyptian people are so much wanting to get rid of the Israelites, the general people, that they give them all their gold and silver and say, get out of here. They actually get 400 years of back pay. They leave there incredibly wealthy. And so they pack up, they're out the door, and they're on this long, long hike. Now, you got to picture the size of this group. I looked it up. At the Super Bowl game a couple days ago, there was 70,000 people. Now, imagine that there was only one entrance into the arena, and you were in line. Okay, just picture that. That's huge. Okay, the people who left Egypt are considered to be 2 million. So multiply that 15 times over. And that's how many people are leaving. The reason they come up with that number is because in Numbers, when you get to Numbers, they are going to list 600,000 men that are of fighting age in the military. Okay, you get to add all the children, all the women, and all the ones older than that, and the basic estimate is 2 million. So that's where they get that number. You don't find that number in the Bible, but you get that number because they only list the men, and they only list between 20 and, I think, 50. Okay? You have to check on that. It might be 60. I'm not sure. Anyway, okay, so that's where, so you get 2 million men, people, and they are leaving in mass exodus. How would you like to be Moses? My arm would not go up. And by the way, he has no microphone, and he has no megaphone. So, but he has to communicate to these people. And they are going to leave Goshen. They're going to go through Succoth. They're going to go through Etham. They're going to come over here a ways. And then God is going to say, go back. And they're following what? Does Moses know where he's going? No. He's leading 2 million people, and he is following a cloud and a pillar of fire. And he's got to trust that cloud, and he's got to trust that pillar of fire. And then God says, I want you to turn around and go back. That means go back into Egyptian territory. I think they got right to the borderline of Egyptian territory, and they needed to go back. This map tells us that they crossed right here. I would like to give my personal opinion. I think that they came around to about here and God said go back, so they had to head back to the west. I think they came down to here. The reason is on the map, there's a big mountain here, and there's a big mountain here, and it kind of comes together and creates a huge, huge valley with a pass. All right? So he brings them into this valley. And by the time you're there, actually what God is doing is he is setting up an ambush. I just love it. I love teaching this to kids because the boys go, an ambush? How exciting! Who's getting ambushed? They go, but wait a minute, why would God ambush his own people? That's the reaction. Well, he's not going to ambush his own people. He's going to ambush the Egyptians. All right, so at first, Pharaoh is thrilled to death to get these guys out of there. He's mourning his son. His son has just died. But within a week or so, he is so furious and so mad. First of all, he lost his huge workforce. That's a free workforce, by the way. 2 million people is a very large free workforce. He lost his workforce. He lost his son. He's lost all of his wealth because they've given it to the Israelites. His gods have been destroyed by, at least in everybody's mind, he's supposed to be the great Pharaoh like his dad. And what a mess his kingdom is in. So he gets his army together and they get on their chariots and they chase them down. It's not hard. I mean, it's not like Moses can very, what do you call it when you move things without people noticing it? Yeah, very surreptitiously or stealth. Yes, it's not like he can move these people secretly. Egypt has their spies out. They know what's going on. They've got people watching. They've got border patrol. Are you kidding? They're the biggest country in the world at that time. They've got all this out. They know where they are, and they know that they are trapped right here. And so they come in from behind. Now, here's the people. Imagine the people. They are excited. They've watched God destroy those gods, all those gods. They've watched all the plagues. Their firstborn sons did not die. They're out of slavery. This is exciting. But this is so surface. And it's not their huge train of thought. So they have, all of a sudden, they get there. They're setting up camp, right? The ground starts to shake. And the noise starts to come. And someone on the edge looks through the pass, and there comes the Egyptian army. And terror runs through the camp. All right? Scared to death. Moses, what are you doing? They can't go north. There's a mountain there. They can't go south. They can't go east. They are, and so it looks, you can just see, and so Moses has to get up on a rock, or my imagination is he gets up on a rock so he can talk to people, and he says, he says, shut up. But the Bible says, be still, might have been a little stronger than be still, but he says, stand still and watch the deliverance of the Lord. Now, Moses doesn't know what's going to happen. Can you imagine? How much would I not want to be there? For the Lord will fight for you today while you keep silent. For do you see these Egyptians who are before you? You will not see them again forever. For the Lord will fight for you while you keep silent. So he stops them. And then God tells him to turn around. He lifts his staff. Like, that's a big thing, right? Oh, yeah. And this huge, huge gulf splits right up. Now, when you look at pictures, like children's pictures, you see them walking like from the sand through like that. Are you kidding? They have to go way down. That's deep. Right? I mean, that if it's gonna split and have dry ground, we're not at that. The floor of the sea is not at surface level. They got to go way, way, way down. 6 or 8 of them are carrying a coffin because they're bringing Joseph with them. The rest of them are carrying babies, little children, whatever food they can grab at the last minute that isn't gone already, okay? They are carrying every single thing they own, and they are walking into the sea. Well, no wonder in Hebrews 11 it says, by faith they crossed the Red Sea. Oh yeah? That's a lot of faith. So they go down there, and when I tell it to kids, they go, oh, could you see the fish? I'm going, I don't know, it was at night. Yeah, you want to do that at night? You want to do that in the daytime? You want to do that at night? So they go down there and they go in there and they follow the cloud and the pillar of fire down deep into this. My guess is that's about 5 miles across. I went to the beach one time with a island way out there just to see if I could figure out what 5 miles across meant, you know? And it was barely on the horizon. I mean, the curvature of the earth was such that you almost couldn't see where you're going. So you would have to get into the sea with barely being able to see the inside. That's really something. Okay, so while they're there, they're crossing, the fire and the pillar of fire and the cloud, or we're at the pillar of fire now because it's nighttime, moves behind them and becomes their rear guard. Now this is what's really amazing. That light lights their way, and that light leaves them black. I haven't seen a light be able to do that. That's pretty cool. So God's light left them black, and they still followed. By the time these guys get all the way out, which probably takes all night long, and it's dawn, and they're getting out, and the Egyptians are now completely in, it closes in. Okay? So they are now free. Their minds, you gotta realize this group of people has completely not one set of organizational system within their people. Like, who's in charge of this group? Who's in charge of that group? Do you have a leader here? Or you've got Moses and 2 million people, and they're all just whatever. They have a big party on the other side, and Miriam sings, and it's a great thing. And they go down here. There's another option. Some people are thinking that this is where Sinai is, over here. And they crossed over like this, and that this was where they crossed the Red Sea and went down here. I'm just feeling like it's only took 2 weeks. I'm just thinking that it would be really hard to get 2 million people from here to here in 2 weeks. That would be a hard process. So I tend to go with the traditional site. So when I'm telling you the story, I'm not ruling it out, but I'm just saying that's why I do that. So I think they're coming down here. By the way, it takes them 3 months to get from here to here. So if it's going to take 3 months to get from here to here, I don't know how they did that one in 2 weeks. That's just an idea. So, but there's a lot of evidence over here of chariot wheels under the ocean. Okay, so that's a possibility. So here, I don't know. I also know that that wasn't the only time the Egyptians fought these people, and there's a land bridge under here, so maybe the water was low and they were crossing a land bridge for a different battle. I don't know. So there's all kinds of things, and just like, hit all the bases and tell you all the exciting things, and you want to go and study all that, that's a lot of cool stuff. Okay. Within 3 days, they're hungry. Oh, Jacob's back. We want to be slaves again because we're so hungry. Right?
Right.
And you think about it, how often in my life have I done the exact same thing? I've had God give me wonderful plans, wonderful provision, amazing blessings. And 3 days later, I'm like, so yes, they are, but it's no different than any of us. So God gives manna. That is a direct type, by the way. When Jesus says that I am the bread of life, he is in context talking about manna. So that is a direct type. Within a little bit, they're going to go, we need some water. And they are so upset about not having water that they are ready to kill Moses. This is a big thing. So they're ready to kill Moses. I got to at least get us down to Sinai before the break. I was supposed to be further than this, but I got to at least get us down there. So they're ready to kill Moses. He goes out there, he takes his staff, he hits the rock, and out comes water. What we're talking about is not just a trickle. This is 2 million people who are thirsty, and they have all their cattle and their sheep, and they drink a lot of water, and out comes a river. Okay, so that happens right at this time. It's probably right about here, and then the Amalekites. If you don't know who the Amalekites are, they're descendants from Esau. Then they have heard about the money, and they are attacking from behind. The Amalekites live right up in here, which is one reason why God did not take them from Egypt to Canaan this direction, plus the Philistines. They come down and attack from behind. Moses holds his arms up, and he can't hold them up any longer, so Aaron and Hur come and hold them up for him, and Joshua, who is a 20-year-old slave, leads an unorganized army with no weapons, and they beat probably the best army around next to the Egyptians, the Amalekites, and they're defeated. And they come down to Sinai, right down here, and they set up camp. And they are going to meet God there. And I'm one whole section behind where I plan to be. But you can take a break as they are get ready to meet God, because this one's critical. What happens when they meet God? Okay, so they're at the big, huge valley called down at the bottom of the peninsula. They're in front of Mount Horeb. It's also called Mount Sinai. If you read through your Bible and you see that sometimes it's referred to as Mount Horeb, H-O-R-E-B, or Mount Sinai, we're talking about the same place. It might be 2 different, slightly different peaks of the same place, but we're basically talking about the same place. And they're down there, and God speaks to Moses, and he says, come on, let's have a little conversation. And Moses goes up there, and he goes, I would like to make a covenant with these people. So God presents it to Moses. Moses goes down, and he says, God is going to make a covenant with you, and it's going to be a suzerain vassal covenant. That means that it is not an equal covenant. It's not like you do this and I'll do this. I mean, it is kind of like that, but it's not an equal level covenant. Okay? It's not equal parties. It's God and subjects. All right? This is a very common covenant in ancient Middle East. When Assyria comes in much later and tells the northern kingdom, we're going to protect you if you become our vassals, they say, yes, that means these guys are in charge and you obey. You don't obey, they come and destroy you. Okay, that's the frame of mind for a suzerain vassal covenant. And that's the type of covenant that is what God is going to make. God is going to tell them, I want to make you my people. I want to make you a kingdom of priests. This would have been awesome to them because they are slaves. Priests, and their orientation for a priest in Egypt was, he's one of the top important guys. We're going to be like that? How cool. Yeah, we want this. And here's the rules. God says, I will bless you. I will protect you. I will take care of you. You will be my people. You will not be attacked. I will make your food grow. I will prosper you. Here's your part. Do what I say. Okay? They go, we're in. We are all in. Okay? So Moses tells God, and he says that they're all in. So this is first time they have agreed. They're going to agree to this covenant 3 times. This is the first time they say we are in. This is sort of like a huge collective vote. There were no nays. They were all yeses, all right? And so Moses goes down, talks to the people. He says, okay, get ready. We're meeting with God tomorrow. Okay, or maybe in 2 days. So you have to check the details to see if I got my details right. But we're meeting with God. Everybody wash. Don't be filthy. You can't meet with a holy God when you're stinking, and they've been traveling for 3 months. They stink, all right? You can't do that. And they are looking at it like, we're going to meet with a God. All right, the Pharaoh was a god. So they would have put on clean clothes to go see the Pharaoh. They would have put on their nice clothes to go see the Pharaoh. They would have done all the right things to go. So that's, their brain is, you got to realize where their brain is. Their brain is not, when we say we're going to meet with God, we already have the frame of mind, the God. They don't, okay? They are meeting with their new God. Get the difference there? Okay, so they're going to get all ready, and God says, now put a fence around the bottom of the mountain, because I'm going to come down on the mountain. You don't even want your animals going up there. You don't want to have your little toddler run up there during this time. You don't want to do anything. You got to protect that one. And they said, okay, that's fine. We'll do this. This is great. We'll do this. So God comes down. When God comes down, that mountain shakes violently. And there's smoke. The whole thing looks like it's on fire. Smoke goes up, lights flashing all over it. Lightning and thunder are blazing the sky. And then there's a voice. And the voice sounds like it's echoing off of the universe. Okay, now it's probably really not, because I don't think the people in Egypt can hear it, but, and I don't think that the people in China can hear it, whatever, but the voice sounds to them like it's echoing off the universe. And it says, I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt. And all of a sudden they're terrified. It is shaking, it is loud. It is way, 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 way past the voice of Pharaoh. It is something they have never heard before. And here are these strong, mighty men, absolutely scared to death. So much so that they're shrinking back. And they are probably not hearing another word that's being said the whole time. Because your brain is exploding with fear. And God then, when God says the 10 Commandments, the 10 Commandments listed in Exodus 20 are God's voice speaking. Okay? I picked that up a while ago, but I thought, oh my goodness, you will have no other gods before me, right? And this is echoing out of the universe. And you will not build idols. But he goes through the list of all the things you will not do. But before he does that, he says, I am the God who redeemed you from slavery. So before he gives them all no, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this, he tells them who he is and what he has done for them. So I've heard so many people talk about God just saying, do you realize what he has just done? Okay, when he says you can't do all these things, he is walking his way through Egyptian mindset. You cannot have other gods. You cannot make idols. You cannot swear by my name. Now, all of a sudden, we're getting a picture of what Egyptian culture looks like. You must take the Sabbath off. They worked 7 days a week, every single day of the year, for 400 years. They get a day off. You will respect your parents. Well, immediately, we see that that was not the culture. You will not kill people. Adultery is not going to be blatant around your country. You will not lie. You will not steal. And you will not even covet. So he is one by one. Their mindset has just 180 degrees reversed. They do not think like that. They did not grow up with the Constitution of the United States of America, where we have rights, where we know right and wrong, where we have freedom of religion, we have freedom. They did not have this. They don't have this frame of mind. They are going to, you know how it is, you're going to go back to your old mindset. Have you ever tried to get over a bad habit? You realize how easy it is to get over? Somebody challenged me one time to give up chocolate for Lent. Oh. Are you kidding me? I don't think I made it.
So think about too that most times he told them about marriage, right?
Huh?
And they had all had concubines.
Oh yeah.
So to them that was like what?
What are you talking
One
about?
man, what? Yeah. So
Yeah.
I was thinking about that too. How you always in the Old Testament you heard all these concubine things.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
giving them a new.
So they are absolutely terrified. They hear the rules. They don't, they're like, what? I've never heard of anything like this. This is entirely different. This is our new, and we're going to sign this contract. Okay? And they say, they go to Moses later and they're all shrank back as far as they could. And they're going to go to Moses and don't ever let God talk to us again. No, don't. We can't. We'll die. Okay, so they just got introduced to the holiness of God. Okay? Be holy as I am holy. That's what this is. All right, so when you look at the 10 Commandments, it's our culture has been set on this. We started with the 10 Commandments in the United States of America. Our culture is based on this. We've gone 250 years now on this. Not even 400, 250. This is ingrained in our people. Murder's not a good thing. And I know that adultery, nobody cares anymore, but basically if you get down to it, they're going to at least have a little bit of a thought about it. Same with stealing, same with lying. And we're getting really loose on these now, but that's still our culture. They don't have that. So this is hugely a different contract. All right, so Moses, they go, you gotta talk to God for us. This is our first theological thing. Wrong one. Where did I put that one? Oh, right here. He's going to be the mediator. The mediator is the person who goes between two parties. Here's the holy God, here's the messed up wreck of a people, and here's Moses. He's got to talk to this side, and he's got to talk to this side. That's his position. It's called a mediator. That is a direct type. Jesus Christ is our mediator. That is an absolute direct type. And what does the mediator do? He makes intercession. The difference between a mediator and intercession is this is who the person is and this is what he does. Okay? See that? He is going to intercede. All right. So Moses talks with the people. He gets them calmed down. He writes it all down for them. I wish I had the original scroll, but I don't. And he takes it to them and he asks them, is this what you want? Now this is more official than the previous one. Oh yeah, we're all in. Because, wait a minute, now they have kind of a look at what this covenant is, right? They say yes. They say yes. There's going to be a third time, and at the moment, I'm not remembering which time goes what, but he's going to go talk to God. He's going to go tell them. Yes, that's what it is. He's going to go tell God that they said yes. He's going to come back, and he's going to create an altar. He's going to kill an animal. He's going to get the blood. He's going to put it on the hyssop, and he is going to stand over this huge, and he's going to sprinkle them all with blood. That is them putting their signature on the covenant. Okay, that's how they did that. We sign a covenant, we have a notary come by, look at it, watch it, stamp it, it's legal, it stands in court, right? That's what this is. They are legally now in contract with God. They need God to do his part, and they have to obey. All right, perfect. We're about Exodus 24 in the story about this time, and at this point, a really cool thing happens. There's between the killing of the defeat of the Amalekites and landing in Sinai, Moses picks out 70 leaders to kind of organize these people based on tribes and families, okay? Very important. I mean, how are you going to get information out? How are you going to do stuff? So he gets these 70 leaders. And there's Aaron, his brother. He's going to be the high priest. Aaron has 4 sons. They're going to be the priests after him. And God has Moses bring up the 70 and Aaron and Nadab and Abihu, the first 2 sons, up on the mountain to meet God, so that the leaders meet God. They actually go up there twice. On the second time they go up there, they have a meal with God. I mean, I'm picturing the wedding feast in heaven. I get to have a meal with God, you know? That's me doing one of these. Not necessarily direct types, but I wish it were. I want to make it that. This is my idea. But I feel like how cool it would be to sit down and have a meal. It's kind of like the Last Supper, only instead of being on the night of sacrifice, it's on the night of celebration. Okay, so it describes them as seeing him on a sea of glass. That looks like jasper. It reminds me of the description in Revelation chapter 4. And so they go up there. You got to picture in your mind these 70 rulers, and Aaron and his sons have all met with God, ate and drank with God. Now, they have to go back down and take care of the people for a while Moses goes up and gets the details of the covenant. The details of the covenant are going to be, how do we worship this God? Are we going to worship like the only way we know how to worship? And God's going to say, no, I'm changing your worship pattern quite a bit. And are they going to build pyramids? That's what they know. Are they going to build the temple of Hatshepsut? That's what they know. And God goes, no, I'm going to give you a new worship system. And he's going to give Moses the exact instructions of a copy. It's like an architect copy of the one in heaven. And if you go through Revelation, you will see the comparison to the tabernacle and Revelation all over the place. It's really cool, but that's not our study this time. I was all over the place. You have to understand, my study was, I want to go there, and get out of that rabbit hole and come back where you're supposed to be. So Moses, now Joshua is Moses' assistant, so Joshua goes with Moses, although he has to stay in a different place, and he stays there for 40 days. That's faith right there. And Moses goes up there and he gets the details. He learns about the tabernacle. He's going to learn how to build it. What are the parts? What do they mean? How do we worship with them? Da, 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 da. And in the meantime, the 70 elders and Aaron go down to the valley. And the people revert to their own mindset. How easy is that for us to do? Do you ever have time in your life when you've reverted to your old mindset? If you tell me that you haven't, I will go, wow. I was teaching on Sunday and I had the hardest time convincing these children that they sinned once in a while. Like every 10 minutes. So I gave this illustration. I said, and this isn't entirely true. This is me taking a story from my parenting years and elaborating on it for a point. So my daughter used to have to be she was the duster. And she dusted perfectly. She absolutely hated it. She dusted with the worst looking face on her face all the time, but she did a perfect job. But she just, and I looked at the kids, I said, did she obey? Oh yeah. They go, no. So they did not have the correct definition of what obey and sin is, you know. That's kind of like the wrong mindset. That's what these people have. And they flipped back and they say to Aaron, who ate with God? We don't know. Oh, by the way, the fire is still on the mountain. The cloud is still on the mountain. The thunder's probably still going up on the mountain. And it's within vision. They can see it. We don't know for sure what happened to this Moses. So, but we need a God to lead us. So can you build us one? What is with Aaron's mind? What happened to the 70? What happened to his two sons that just should have gone up and smacked him across the face? That's one time when that would have been respecting the parents. And so he goes, okay, go get me it does not show an argument. Now maybe he was hesitant, I don't know, but the very next verse tells that he is telling them how to bring the gold in, right? So it doesn't show that he hasn't. I would hope that Aaron was hesitant, but it does not show this, you know? And so they have so much wealth that all they have to do is bring in their earrings. And they can build what is probably a good sized solid gold bull. The bull is one of the main gods for Egypt. And then the people, the Bible says that they sat down to eat and they stood up to play. And the word play is a euphemism because even the Hebrews did not describe it directly. It is probably a naked, half-naked group outdoor orgy. That's what this worship looks like. Okay? Now you get a picture of their mindset. To them, that is how worship took place. Okay, so if you had a group of people like that, and you are God, and you are trying to change their mindset, even for God, I'm going to be funny here. That's a challenge. Okay, so God's up there talking to Moses, and he goes, you need to get down there because they are breaking the covenant. And Moses goes, and actually God, and I've got the conversation confused as to when God said what, but he goes, I want to destroy them and make a new country out of you. And Moses does this. No, God, You keep your word. You do this. Now, in reality, God knew they were going to do that. God knew Moses was going to intercede. God knew he wasn't going to kill them. But if the story isn't told like this, we don't know what this means. Okay? So it's going to say, and then it'll say, and God changed his mind. You go, ah.
Yeah.
And that becomes a huge theological discussion that God is no longer God because he can change his mind. Are you kidding? He is giving us a giant picture of the struggle. And if he didn't, we would go, doesn't matter what we do because God's not going to do anything anyway because he's not going to, right? See that? That's kind of the story of Nineveh when God changed his mind and didn't destroy Nineveh. Okay, so Moses talks him out of it, goes down the hill, and he sees the party. Okay, so Moses is furiously mad. You gotta get that. But he does, and he's going to throw the covenant down and break it into shattered pieces. He doesn't shatter the covenant because he's so darn mad at the people having a party. He shatters the covenant because they've already shattered the covenant. That is a huge typology, a direct one. They have shattered the covenant, and he shatters the covenant to show them they've shattered the covenant. And they are people of needing pictures. We are like that. We need real illustrations. We need real things happening. And he shatters that covenant. He goes down there and you talk about righteous anger. He is righteously angry. He's going to find out from Aaron what happened. Aaron's going to go, I don't know, they made me do it. And it just, it just popped off. I don't know, I threw it in there and out came the, yeah. No, I didn't carve or nothing, you know. And so you could just, now Aaron's Moses' older brother. All right, so you could just, I can just see Moses holding on to his fists to try to keep from knocking that guy out. Anyway, he takes that golden calf and he melts it and he puts it in their water and he makes them drink it. By doing that, you realize that there is no way to recover that gold. He totally destroys, they're not going to go through the excrement to recover the gold. If you had just melted it, there is a way to recover that gold. There's no way to recover this gold. And that's the whole point. And then he has whoever did not participate, some of the Levites, and they go around the whole camp and they get everybody who was involved, and 3,000 men die. Yeah. That probably means 6,000 at least because it's men. And when the Bible lists 3,000 men, they don't count the women. So the women are in on this too, so we're not innocent in this mess. All right. They have already agreed to the covenant twice. He is going to talk them through this. He's going to go back up to God. He's going to talk, and they're going to agree. Did I say it already 3 times? Anyway, they're going to agree 3 times. And by the end of the story, Moses comes down. He goes, you guys chose me as a mediator. This is what we're doing. And you will obey the covenant. No, okay. That's where they're at. All right, now they have to do it. They have to dress in, they have to take their jewelry off. They're not allowed to be gorgeous. They have to be humble. They have to be lowly. They're back to slave status as far as how they look. And that's where they need to be at this point. Because, and at this point, they get to start building the tabernacle. All right, we're through the crisis. I just want you to know that this mindset of, yes, we're going to do it, we're all in God, and within a little bit, boom, we're out, is the story of Israel's history. Okay? And all through Israel's history, God has to threaten them with discipline and exile. And people say, the Old Testament has such a mean God. And I look at it exactly the opposite. The Old Testament has such a forgiving God. He should have killed those people right there. They should have been wiped out. And he is such a forgiving God all the way through.
I recently thought about all of this and felt another kind of typology, and that was God rescues us from sin. We are baptized through the water, and then we go through life struggling against sin to reach the promised land.
It's the story of the Exodus.
Yeah.
Yes, it's one of those types. It's so close to a type. It's not actually said as a type as far as I know. It's one of those types, okay? Yeah. So now they get to build the tabernacle, and now they're going to bring some more of their gold and their riches, and they're plenty endowed, and they are going to build the tabernacle, and that's what this is right here. And it will come into play in our story. As a matter of fact, Leviticus takes place right there. Okay? The story of Leviticus. I mean, there's little bits that happen out here in the tents, but for the most part, the story of Leviticus takes place right here. There's one big section that takes place inside. But Leviticus is not really about all the furniture in the tabernacle. I love the tabernacle.
Me too.
I love what each part means. I love what each part represents. I love that each part is a type. Okay, so inside that tent, just real quick because I'm way behind. This picture is perfect except for it gives us the wrong angle. If this is north and this is south and this is west and this is east, then the tabernacle is right here and it faces east. And the altar is right here and the laver is right there, okay? And the fence is out here like this. Okay, and the story of Leviticus takes place mostly right here in the courtyard. All right, he's going to have them, this is and if you read through, or say, Exodus 35 through 39, you'll get them building it. If you want the instructions on how to build it, you got to go back to 25 through, I think, 31. And that's where Moses got the instructions up on the mountain. And here's now where they're building it. And you go, why does God repeat all the story? Why does he give the details twice? So important. Have you ever needed a story repeated? Have you ever needed a rule repeated? Have you ever needed your mom, think about when you're a kid, to tell you something more than once? Okay. So inside here is a curtain, and this is called the veil. We will come across the veil in Hebrews, so I will tell you about that when we get to it. I'm just showing you where it is. That veil is covered with embroidered angels and cherubim and things like that. And they guard the way to the Holy of Holies. And inside the Holy of Holies is the Ark of the Covenant. And the Ark of the Covenant is a wooden box covered with gold. That is a type. And it has a empty place in the center on the top of the lid. It has two handlebars that go out so that it can be carried without touching it. It's got two angels that come up like this. And the center part that's empty is God's throne. It's where, if God had a body, which he doesn't, he would sit.
Is that the mercy seat?
That's the mercy seat. It's called a mercy seat. It's not called God's judgment seat, which is what a throne generally is. This one's a mercy seat. Inside the box is going to be right? The covenant. The 10 Commandments on the stone are the actual covenant, and it goes inside the box. That's why it's called the Ark of the Covenant. I learned that for a long time as a kid before I finally did.
Right.
There's a covenant inside the box. That's why it's called the Ark of the Covenant, you know? Okay, so that's there. The angels, this is called the Holy of Holies. The angels guard the way. It reminds me of Eden. The angels are stopping the people from getting into where God dwells. And it's also a picture of eternity in the future. Okay, over here, on this side right here, is the menorah. Okay? And that's the light. And that's the only light inside. This part of the tent is called the holy place. That's the menorah. It's a 7-branch thing. It's solid gold. It has little cups at the top for oil. And it has a wick in each one. And every morning and every evening, the priest has to go in there and light and add oil to the cake, because the lights are never allowed to go out. Remember? So obviously you have to keep filling the oil. The oil is a very special recipe. It's a particular recipe that has to be filled right there. Okay? Right over here is what they call the table of showbread. It's and at the moment, it's slipping my mind what shoe means, okay? The shoe part of them. Okay, but I'll get it up again and I'll get memory. On there is 12 loaves. They're pretty good sized loaves. If you check out how much flour it takes to make one of these loaves, and you've ever made a loaf of flatbread, you'll know that it's not like this, okay? It's not like a pita bread. It's a big loaf. And there's 12 of them here, and probably they're stacked 6 on top of each other and 6 on top of each other, and they stand for the 12 tribes of Israel. And that's what that is. And then there's also incense that sits in a little cup on top of that, and that is a direct type, because Jesus is the bread of life. That's what that is.
So Debbie, the 12 loaves of consecrated unleavened bread is the showbread. Lechem papananim, 12 loaves of consecrated unleavened bread.
That might be what the show is
Yeah,
concentrated.
the shoe.
Yeah. Lechem is bread. Yeah. And right here is a little altar. And this is an incense altar. And the priest would go in there and he'd put a few coals on there and he'd pour his incense on it, and it would be beautiful cloud of smoke would come up, and that represents prayers of the saints. So that's a direct type too. It's not a direct type to Jesus Christ, it's a direct type to our prayers. And they rise before God, and it's right in front of the mercy seat. Okay, so it's pictured. There is the curtain there. It's very important that the curtain is there, because we out here are sinful people. And we cannot walk into here without getting killed. And it's not that God is mean and just say, I don't want you in here, I'm going to knock you down. That's not what that is. You cannot enter holiness with any sin with you. You will actually destroy yourself by doing that, because sin cannot be in the presence of God. So that's why that is a protective curtain at this point. Okay? Only a priest can go in here. So all the general people who live out here in the tents, okay, they cannot go in there. They can go in here. That's why here is where Leviticus takes place, because it's a story about the people. How are the people going to live? Now, this gets all done, and I had 11 minutes. Okay. We're at the end of Exodus, and it's all done. And Moses takes out his original script from God, and got on the mountain and said, you have to make it exactly like this. And it even says that in Hebrews, that we have to make it exactly, and he goes through and he checks each item. Is it exactly right? Is it exactly right? Has to be exactly right. Think about it like heaven. Doesn't heaven have to be exactly right? Okay, so we check, it's all good. So he comes out, and I wish I had another. Is there a yellow one in here? Let's see if this shows. The glory of God lives in it. And it sits here, and it's so bright it comes flying out of the opening. Here's a little opening there. Okay? And it's so much so that nobody can go in. Moses can't go in. He's the mediator, and he can't go in. This is the glory of God's. I used this example once before, but do you know, remember, shoot, what's that story where they have the red shoes and they go into Kansas and who's that?
The Wizard of Oz.
Wizard of Oz. Okay, Dorothy stands in front of the wizard, right? And the wizard is, make that a speck, you know, and they're shaking, right? Okay, make that a speck of the real story. It's just a picture that gives you an idea. All right, so you cannot go in there. And that's where Exodus ends. All right. Book of Exodus. Leviticus is the next verse. So, it says, and God says to Moses, I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt. Da 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 da. In the book of Leviticus, first of all, it doesn't kind of say like this. Hey, Moses, here. I'm your Lord. I brought you out of Egypt. It's not like that. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of slavery in the land of Egypt. That is authority. It is redemption. It is a huge picture of love, but it's not gushy. You get that? Okay, in Leviticus, God says that, I don't know, 40 times. I am the Lord your God. Be holy like I am holy. I am the Lord your God. Listen to this. He's going to say it over and over and over and over again. And I made a point in my own notes to me, because I write these notes to me before, to write it down every time he said it. I wanted to be impacted with, I am the Lord your God. And it's coming, and it's coming, and it's coming. And then it will say, and this is what God told Moses, and then Moses tells the people. So God talks to Moses. Here's Moses. God talks to Moses, and Moses tells the people. You get it? That's a mediator. It's going to say it over and over and over again. Now look at how Hebrews opens. It says, in various times and in many ways in the past, God spoke through the prophets. Do you know who was the all-time top prophet in Jewish thought? Moses. Okay, so if you're going to, did God speak to Moses? Over and over and over again. Who is the top? Now look at Hebrews. Let me turn there to chapter 1, in verse 1. God, after he spoke long ago to the fathers, through the prophets, in many portions and in many ways, in these last days has spoken to us through his Son. If you were a Jewish believer in the first century, and you were about ready to abandon your faith in Messiah this year because the persecution has gotten so extreme. It's not extreme against the Jews. It is extreme against the Christians. So if you belong to both camps, where's the safe spot? Over there, from the human side, from the human viewpoint.
Yeah.
They are ready to give up this spot and go back to here and live in this spot. Their temple is being attacked. All kinds of things are happening. They probably have tons of pressure from the rest of the Jewish community. What are you doing over there with those people that nobody likes and God has rejected? That's the Jewish side, right? Over here is Jesus is real Messiah. And they are caught in the middle. If they go here, they will probably be a torch for Nero. If they go here, they're safe. What were they raised on? This. What do they think like? This. How important? All of a sudden, they hear these words. The letter comes. And who is the main person who spoke to them constantly over here? Moses. God spoke to Moses, Moses spoke to them. Now it says, in these last days, he has spoken to us in his Son. That would have blown their minds. What? Something is better than Moses? That's impossible. How can it be better than Moses? Moses is the mediator. No. Now God has spoken in his Son. And there's more. Whom he appointed heir of all things. Okay, Moses, he's going to go on in Hebrews chapter 3. He's going to describe Moses as a servant, Jesus as a son. Who inherits? The servant or the son? The son. That's going to take them back to Abraham. Abraham thought that Eliezer, his servant, was going to be his heir because he had no son. And God said, no, you're not leaving it to Eliezer. I'm giving you a son. And who is the son a picture of? Jesus Christ. That's Isaac, right? All these things. If you were a Jew, if you had a Jewish background, your brain would go, what? He's the son and Moses is the servant. Your brain would go there. Your brain would return to all these things really quickly. They would flash through your mind. Just like other things in your life flash through your mind. Have you done something and all of a sudden a childhood memory flashes through your mind? Okay, that's how this is. There's more. Whom he appointed heir of all things and through whom he made the world. He just told them that Jesus is not only Messiah, Jesus is God. He's the creator. And look at this. He is the radiance of his glory. What? That's called the Shekinah glory. Shekinah is not in the Bible. That's what the Jews call it. It means the very presence of God. Because God doesn't have a body. It's this glow of light that is so bright you can't look at it. Remember one of the times when Moses came down from the mountain, and this is after the golden calf, and this is after they're all like, okay, we screwed up royally, and it's worse than that, but you know, and he's talking to them, and this is the point where he says, this is the covenant, this is what you will do. His face glowed. His face glowed like the Shekinah glory. They are picturing, the people who are reading Hebrews are flashbacking to, wait a minute, Moses reflected the Shekinah glory. Jesus is the Shekinah glory. They've read 3 verses and they've fallen off their chairs. And he is the radiance of his glory, the exact representation of his nature. And he upholds all things by the word of his power. And the rest of this book, so I'm going to read it to you, is a summary of the entire book of Hebrews and Leviticus. When he made purification for sins, he sat down at the right hand of the Majesty on high. I want you to know something. There are no chairs in here. There are no chairs out here. And do you know why there are no chairs anywhere? Because the priest's job was never done. He never got to sit down. He finished one sacrifice and went straight to the other. As we get farther into it, you're going to go, I cannot believe. Those priests must have been exhausted at the end of every day because of the volume of sacrifices they are required to make daily. And you bring me a cow, and you say, okay, your job is to kill the cow, skin the cow, separate the cow into all of its parts, clean out all of its gooky innards, and burn it, and then haul the ashes off to the next place, and I'm going to bring you another cow. I'm going to be a tad bit tired and want to sit down. They can't sit down. But what do these readers hear? What do these Jewish believers hear? When he made purification for sin, by the way, most of Leviticus is about that statement. How do you make purification for sin? How do
All
you,
that blood from all those
how do you make it so that this person out here can walk into here? Now, it's not going to happen in Leviticus, but in Hebrews it is. In Hebrews, we live out here. We are the utterly, horribly degenerate, sinful people who get to enter into here. How does that happen without us dying? Okay, that's in this sentence. When he made purification for our sins. And then he sat down. Why did he sit down? It's all finished. So, those first 3 verses are so packed. And it takes most of Leviticus to describe those first 3 verses. And I missed up a bunch of stuff that I'll probably have to come back to. But you get the point. That's my introduction to Leviticus. And we will be starting in on Leviticus chapter 1, verse 2 next week. And we will go through what these, we covered a whole verse today. I'm so proud of myself. And let's pray. Dear Father in heaven, I want to thank you for providing a way for us as totally degenerate, sinful people to be purified and be able to come before you and stand in your presence and be welcomed with open arms and to feel your love and to know that we can bring you all of our silly, little, stupid requests and you don't treat them like that. You treat each one as important and you listen and you hear and you love us and you are turning us into holy people just like you are. So thank you for Leviticus. Thank you for the whole book. Thank you for the opportunity to learn it. In Jesus' name, amen.